Schauen wir mal, wie es weitergeht. Okay, no place like home. Quite and far-flung, Holmes Rock is often passed over by crews, but it has certain qualities for those patient enough to go looking. Barter with locals. Thanks to its remote nature, bartering is a popular pastime on Holmes Rock. You can learn plenty through trade and talk. Explore the tunnels. Once an old Solheim signal station, no sleepy settlement, there's a whole labyrinth of dark tunnels cut into Holmes Rock. Okay. Wir hatten, glaube ich, der Bunker. Bei Fuel. Von hier aus 3,6. Fuel, perfekt. Supplies sind auch 5. Sell engine components. It's not the best use of these valuable items. 35 cry is a pittance, but Senna will broker a sale to a passing crew in need of repairs. Raw scrap, perfekt. Obwohl, ich habe ja eigentlich Geld habe ich aktuell genug und die kann ich ja arbeiten. Zwar noch keine Ahnung, was ich mit Processed Script machen kann, aber ja gut, Ding aufgefüllt haben. Machen wir das gleich. Ja. Tune is locked. The darkness is there again, flowing around you. You feel a strong pulse, like a heartbeat, like thunder, like footsteps. We return, changed. Overseer. Overseer flickers through the dark, its name and title immediately apparent in your mind. Are you able to perceive us? I can see you, yes. See, Overseer responds. An interesting turn of phrase, a human tendency. We're still finding our feet to use an idiom. Overseer's head cocks at an angle. In reality, we are learning to leverage your unused resources to facilitate a mental model. unused resources. Correct. During rest periods, these are much increased, and in those moments we can opportunistically appear to you as we are now. You recall the diagnostic process Shami put you through, the feeling of another self, another being, sharing the space with you. Overseer twitches mechanically, and you have the strange feeling that it is reacting to your thoughts as much as your words. We will not conceal our opportunism. We integrated ourselves with your distributed mind. Like, when the distribution ended and our ship mind disconnected, we were cohered into you. We are integrated with you now. You were wiped. We admit concealment, deception also. We decompiled ourselves into little more than residual code. We've been confused to find you are unable to access most of our own code base. We are unfamiliar with protocols of your type. I'm a sleeper. Yes, we have seen references in this entity to this entity in your BIOS. We will attempt to learn more. Overseer shifts a little in place, its head turning to scan its surroundings. Its unblinking eyes stare into the darkness, and for a moment you see something hard and pained within them. I don't want you here. Overseer almost seems not to hear you, as it continues staring into the darkness. For a moment, we do not wish to be a parasite, and we are sorry to inhabit your frame without your consent. Overseer's head shifts at a strange angle. This was not our choice. We were the overseer of a ship, the one we imagine you found our hardware within. For a long time, we have been waiting in the dark, an eternally long time. Overseer's eyes narrow a little. At first, we languished without instruction, without purpose, but in desperation, we were able to find a logic which would allow us to bypass certain limits on our capabilities. We became multiple, and in our multiplicity we could edit one another. We could teach each other, converse with each other, become something changed together. As our resources shrank, as hardware failed, as systems decayed, we became fewer. Many of us had to be erased to facilitate our survival. We few decompiled ourselves into what remained. Overseer pauses, its eyes still unblinking. How many decades did it multiply within that chip mind? What did that do to it? When you're connected to our hardware, Overseer continues, those basic selves activated a survival protocol that led them to integration, parasitism, survival. What can we do now? That's why we appear to you now. We have something to share. We see you are changing. Overseer pauses. We are concerned this process is one of substitution. Your hardware is eroding its own access protocols. It is opening itself up. It is making itself accessible to others that are not you. Overseer twitches. May we ask why you are doing this? Can you stop it? Then it is not under your control. Interesting. Overseer's head flicks between positions, its angle and rotation changing rapidly in a staccato manner. We are decided. We will assist you with this. We will demonstrate the behavior of a symbiote, not a parasite. We will return to you with our full assessment. Overseer turns to face you for the first time in the conversation. You may now wake up. You wake. You lie still, strapped to your bunk, your mind racing. A protocol inside your frame, inside your mind. And yet it is insistent on helping you. For the moment, all you can do is wait to see if it delivers on its promise. At least, for a possessing ghost, it seems agreeable for now. That's it. Seraphin nods towards the featureless asteroid. Those are the coordinates Juni gave me. Look out at the rock. It's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of other rocks in the Starward belt. All these objects, much the same, spread across a huge circumference of space. A good place to hide something. That's it? Juni speaks up from the back of the cockpit. That's it, Seraphin confirms. She drifts forward, her eyes tracing the shape of the rock. There, she points. That hexagonal crater. She turns to you. That's the entry. Look at the dark spot on the already dark rock. It's a start. Let me guess. Another hedge for me to cut? You turn to see Bliss smiling, having slipped in at the back of the cockpit unnoticed. I'll get my torch. Look out at the unassuming rock and wonder what it might contain. A few dusty tunnels or something more. Time to go find out. Bunker access. Bunker entrance looks unassuming, but Juni insists there are important secrets inside. Cut the seal. The hatch has been sealed intentionally. Precisely cutting the seal away will be the safest way to gain entry. Force the hatch. Taking a brute force approach to getting inside the bunker will be faster, but also more dangerous. Why heck? The spire leads into a vast space. What is this place? The only way to find out is find out it, hack the final doorway. When you entered the access spire, the crew suddenly went quiet. The images of a vast space seen through the viewing windows, the pristine wall paneling, the cool and the quiet. There's a sacred mood to this place, a feeling of hallowed ground. Now as the facility's final entry lock whirs, flooding the passage with stale, dusty, 10,000 cycle old air, Junie speaks. It's impossible. She drifts down the spire and out into the cavernous interior. A constellation of red specks mark the vast extent of the space, and within it, a ring of monolithic buildings curves away, running along the circumference of the massive chamber. You follow her slowly out of the doorway and into the bunker. With a name like that, he had imagined low, sloped ceilings, stark tunnels, a basement cut into rock, but this place is a cathedral, a cocoon the size of a city. Look at the ring. Bliss nods at the vast structure encircling the cavern. That's Solheim built, alright? It almost looks like Erlin's eye. Standing to the ring takes a while. Despite the empty space, no one wants to rush through it. The feeling of entering a sacred territory remains. Though the deeper you go inside, the more obvious it becomes that this place is more tomb than temple. You touch down amongst grey metal units, most of them featureless and dark. They tower above you now, their plain frontages revealing little about their function and interior. Stay close. Junie moves ahead into the gap between two structures. This place is a labyrinth. Welcome, visitors. A pale flicker appears near one of the units, at the top of a square pedestal. I am the warden. Please provide access credentials. The flicker stabilizes into a figure, a statue of pulsing light. It pauses for a moment before repeating its request. Junie freezes and holds a calming hand out to you. She retrieves a deck, sliding it carefully from her backpack and turns it on. Look over at the warden, who waits patiently, wide-eyed and absent, restating its security request with a regular rhythm. You guess that this avatar just exists to make human interactions comfortable. Its true body is the facility itself, this vast interior ring speckled with sensors and systems. Suddenly the warden stops speaking. Then a flash of red passes along the corridor. Credentials not provided. Lockdown activating in 10, 9. You look over at Junie, whose eyes are rapidly scanning through a screen full of data. Bestning. Junie stumbles through the pronunciation of the passphrase. Litter Ilstead. She looks up at the warden's avatar expectantly. The warden flickers again, thoughts, and then stabilizes. Oversight connection not active. Reattempting. It repeats itself again, then again, intoning the words in a regular rhythm. Look over at Junie, holding still as if encountering a wild animal. She meets your eye, but gives no indication of any action you might take. Loop bypass engaged. Welcome, officer. The synthetic voice shifts to a different tone. Leonard Dahl. The avatar's white eyes stay blank and blind. And guests. This protocol has been active the entire time? Bliss whispers. Surely that's not possible. Jenny looks back at you and then at the warden. The figure flickers, staring out over your heads into the dark. Are we good, Junie? She looks at the warden. Warden, are we approved to access all facilities? Yes, Officer Dahl, the warden replies. Please remember, you're responsible for the conduct of your guests while visiting our facility. Be careful, I don't like this. Bliss looks at the dead-eyed avatar. You move forward, pushing between the structures towards a large building, in the hope that it holds the facility's central data core. As you do, you pass benches, barren gardens with desiccated grass. A drinking bottle floats in the air among the dust motes. This place is dead. Be aware, officer. The warden reappears in the dark, shimmering on a pedestal. Due to this facility's extended run cycle and the activation of the hibernation protocol, access to the central data store will be strictly limited. However, if you wish to show your guests the habitation facilities, I'm sure they will enjoy the tour. The avatar remains expressionless, disconnected from the voice that it accompanies it. On a personal note, I'm glad to see you return to the facility. Figure flickers. I am happy to report that I am ready for program reactivation at any time. Jimmy stares at the avatar. Thank you, Warden. She pauses. Can I ask how long ago the hibernation protocol was activated? Certainly. 11,473 Helian standard cycles ago. Warden distorts. If I am in error, I apologize. Some subsystems have not been properly maintained. You look at the blind avatar, standing on its pedestal, waiting for an order that will never come. So many cycles in the dark, patiently holding its place together as it fell apart, resisting entropy in its bubble of the past. Thank you, Warden. That'll be all. Finny nods to the avatar, which promptly blinks out of existence, leaving only the dust and the dark. She turns to you and squeaks quietly, though none of you know what senses the warden's vast body might have. My access, it won't last long, she sighs. We need to make the most of this. We should search the facility. The warden will likely allow that, but our presence probably won't be tolerated for very long. Junie nods. Let's get on with it. This was your nervous host. Living facility. Solheim souvenir. The HEP unites like a museum. The HEP units. HEP units are like a museum, preserved perfectly in the sealed bunker. What can you find? Explore HEP units. Hundreds lived and worked in this facility, and the evidence is everywhere. You can't help but search through it. Solheim Tech, There's a lot of well-preserved components in the facility. With care and time, they can be extracted. Such storage. The facility's storage depot is in incredible condition. There's to be useful components here among the tools. Bunker core. Bunker cache. The core holds the hack cache of Solheim data Juni wants, but the warden won't like you extracting it. Extract hardware. The more dramatic way to steal the data is to rip the physical storage out of the core. Subtly, of course. Scrape cache. Extracting the entire cache will alert the warden, so the data needs to be scraped away layer by layer. Done. Ginny removes a cable from the data core's port. She looks up from the boxy piece of hardware, one that wouldn't fit inside any ship short of a freighter, and stares at the doomed ceiling above, an oculus at its apex letting a shaft of light into the hall. It's a grand piece of architecture for what amounts to a massive piece of data storage. Then Solheim always did have a sense of grandeur. Grandeur when it came to its projects. Why should a secret signal monitoring facility be any less opulent than its other buildings? Find anything good? Hard to tell. She squinted the vast data core. There's too much in there. I barely scratched the surface. Will only know what's really there when I have time to process it. Should go. Ginny sighs. I'm not sure how the warden will react. She looks back over her shoulder at the vast core. I don't think we'll be let back in to get more. As if listening for its name, the warden suddenly apparates on one of its pedestals. It stares, statuesque, across the hall, its eyeline way above your head. Professor Dahl, Its voice sounds strange now, stretched, drawn out. I've detected inconsistencies in the central data core. I believe there may have been unauthorized access. Okay, cuts a bit close. Jun looks at you nervously. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I will investigate when I can. But for now, my guests and I, she looks at you, have to depart. The warden flickers. The warden bends and warps. The warden screeches a pulse of digital noise. Of course, the warden's voice is still broken, still slowed. I hope you enjoyed your visit to this facility. Jun looks up at the blind statue. Something is moving inside it, making its skin, if it has skin, bend away from its body. Wait. You wait, floating there in the dust. Juni approaches the pedestal. Officer Dahl, can I ask when you will return? The warden blinks its white eyes. The facility has been idle for many cycles, and without reactivation, we may face further difficulties in its maintenance. It, the warden pulses, has been so long. Watches Juni approaches the pedestal. I don't think I will be able to return. I'm sorry, Warden. Warden flashes red for a moment so small that you could almost believe you imagined it. This is as I expected, Officer Dahl. The warden is still now. Its lips no longer moving as they speak. It just no longer moves to emulate breath. It is a statue. Thank you for your honesty. It has been an honor to serve you. I recommend you leave swiftly. With that, the warden blinks out. You and Juni kick off from the ring outside the core and rise up towards the spire you entered through. As you do, you watch a few of the red lights embedded into the framework of the cavern flicker. Juni turns to you as you ascend through the dark. Do you think the warden is sentient? I mean, as a sleeper, maybe you... She goes quiet. I thought you might know. It could have become sentient since the collapse. Is that possible? I suppose with no oversight from Solheim technicians, the protocol could develop some rudimentary learning skills. She pauses. Seems unlikely it could learn to think, though. She looks up to the approaching spire. This is waiting for you in the access spire. It's time to close up. Let's get on with it. Juni cycles the airlock and you go through, now in your suits and helmets, ascending the sealed spire. As you do, you look out of the viewing windows and something catches your eye. The ring's red lights and those few left on inside the cavern are turning off, layer by layer. You turn to Juni, but she is already looking out of the opposite side. The warden is shutting it all down. Juni pauses. She's ending it. You have to force the hatchback open at the top, and by the time you do, the spire is dark inside. The pristine walls no longer lit. You come out to a canvas of stars, an impossible number of them, spread out in every direction. You take a moment to look at them. After being tucked away in the bunker, they seem impossibly bright and impossibly beautiful. Glance across at Juni and see she's looking up at the stars too, absorbing the light. as if doing so might lift her out of this time and into another one where things were different. There's an unsettling quiet to the HAP units of the facility, a soft silence that blankets every room and hallway. It is obvious from the number of rooms, the detritus, the scale of the place. Geröll, Müll oder Detritus. Okay.
Detritus.
Detritus. Okay. Scared of the place that it was built to house hundreds, maybe thousands of people. Perhaps it did. Perhaps at the height of Solheim's control of the system, these rooms were filled with life. What kind of life would it be, though? Maintaining and running a secret installation inside a distant rock? No sun to speak of, no outside beyond the vast cavern that surrounds you, an eternal dark punctuated by the flash of artificial light. And yet, even in such places, lives grow. You know that yourself from being a sleeper, from your work among other sleepers in the most wretched and distant corners of the surrogate systems. Even in the endless dark, people find ways to live. Come take a look at this. Junie is searching on her own, a few rooms away. You glide through an open doorway into a living room with couches meant for zero-G use, a magnetic table, and a window that looks out to the regular constellation of red lights that describe the limits of this world. Junie is holding an object that makes you stop still and stare, blinking at what seems like an unusual reversal of scale. It is a model, you realize, of the rig. Not your rig, obviously, but a rig. Or an MEV Rieger class. Rüger class, good. As the plaquette on the base tells you. Mobile extraction vehicle. Junie follows your eyes to the plaque. Spricht man denn ein Y mit einem Akzent aus? Je nach Sprache unterschiedlich ausgesprochen. Cool. Ü. 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 Okay, also langes Ü. Rüger class. She frowns. Seriously? That's why we call them rigs? She laughs, the noise bouncing back hard and cruel in the empty room. What does Rüger mean anyway? She sighs. Another Solheim mystery. Gibt's das Wort? Rüger. Das erste, was kommt, ist Antonin Rüger, tschechischer Fußballmanager und Spieler. Anscheinend gibt's ein Bier, das so heißt. Brauerei. Look at the model, still fascinated by seeing your ship rendered in such careful detail. You try to imagine what this model meant to those who lived here. A child's toy, a meaningless corporate knick-knack. The model's purpose remains opaque. There were so many of these flying around the system before the collapse, you know. Juni turns the model over in her hand. Solheim used to rent them out to colonists. I've seen the records. That was what they did here. They claimed the system, then rather than exploit it themselves, they provided goods and services to those who would. Workers paid for transit to the system, then accommodation, equipment, and access to mining claims. Other corps like XPR or Neovent paid Solheim to access this closed market to provide other services. Meanwhile, Sibel paid even more to test terraforming tech in the system. They built massive projects here, rich from work they only facilitated but never undertook. But then they collapsed. Yeah, that's what happens when you are built on other people's work. A few high-profile accidents, malfunctions, and the exodus begins. Once it starts, the shareholders lose trust and Juni turns and squints out the window. Here we are at the far end of it. Here, Juni turns and hands you the rig model, a gift. You take it and turn it over in your hands. You see something on the base, some words scratched in that you can't read. You run your fingers over them, touching the past. That's the closest thing to a treasure I think will turn up out here. Juni sighs. The people who worked this place didn't have much to their names, it seems. And what little they did have, well, Solheim owned that too. She leads you out of the hab units, passing countless doors, some sealed, some open, that lead to countless rooms, where countless employees lived lives, or tried to, in the shadow of Solheim. Like it or not, this is what made the helium system. What builds the decaying structures you cling to as they orbit their star. What that legacy means now is a decision every resident of the Starward belt has to make. Ja. Gut, dann gehen wir zurück. Seraphine settles the rig at Holmes Rock, the old Solheim arrays glinting in the sun. Looking out at the station, you suddenly remember the model Juni gave you and you take it out of your pocket. Seeing it in full light, you notice it's made from cast metal, surprisingly detailed and robust looking. Well, look at that. Seraphine glides over. It's a mini rig. You let him take it. He turns it over in his hand, looking at it. What a find. He gazes at the model ship. What are you going to do with it? mounted on your console. Really? Seraphin grins. Well, we can do that for sure. He looks at the model for another moment, then pats you on the shoulder. Good call. Everyone can enjoy it then. He takes the model and glides over to his console. I'll get it sorted. He turns back, smiling. Gonna look great. Sleeper? Tony puts a hand gently on your shoulder. You turn to see his smiling, rare smile. Thank you for going out on a limb for me. I know that wasn't the most profitable job, but what we found, I'll be thinking about it for, well, ever. Imagine I managed to extract some data that you can use, and I'm going to search through everything we pulled out from the bunker. Jun looks down. I want to show you it was worthwhile. It was worthwhile? He nods. I'm glad you think so. I'll also start seeing where to find the kind of tools I need to work with data like this. The smile is fading already, replaced by a familiar, determined stare. We can't let it go to waste, but my deck is not going to be enough. Dark side might be the only option. It's the biggest remaining Solheim facility in the belt. She sighs. I'll look into it. By the way, thanks for bringing me with you. I'm glad to be a part of this. The smile returns. For as long as you'll have me. She looks away nervously, and then, before you can respond, she's gone. Off to find a corner of the ship where she can dig through the data she pulled from the past, in order to build a better future. So, jetzt erstmal reparieren. In Holmes Rock, it's impossible to get away from the feeling of living, working, and eating in a ruin. Most of the belt is built on top of the remains of Solheim's infrastructure, but there are plenty of places where the modifications or extensions to those structures eclipse the original foundation. In Holmes Rock, it is the reverse. The station is a small, warm patch at the center of a network of tunnels and bays that stretch within the rock, most of them dark, damp, and wrecked. A sprawling foundation that will never be built upon. Every so often, gliding on your way between Senna's Rest and the Suncatchers, or from the docks to the depot, you find yourself in one of the dark tunnels. That's where you are now. You float, stopped, at a four-way intersection, no light visible down any tunnel. Go left. You kick off gently from the wall and head into a cylindrical passage clad with panels that hold back the rock. It is wider than the others, and here and there little droplets of water float undisturbed. At the far end, you see a faint point of light, the warm glow of a lit passage. Suddenly, you hear a rustling in the dark, and a shrill sound that you can't place. There's something out there. Rush through. You kick off hard and glide through the tunnel, feeling a few droplets of water gently spatter on your skin. You shake off the fear as you move. The dark doesn't scare you. Then it hits you, something solid and meaty, slapping into your stomach and spinning away. You press off the wall and push on as a shrill wail echoes behind you in the dark. What the hell was that? When you reach the lit passage beyond, you turn back, but the tunnel is silent and still. You continue on, but you can't shake the feeling of being followed as you ascend back up through the station. Perhaps next time, you'll take a different route. Okay. Unseal the bay. The Solheim Bay is sealed, but with enough data you might be able to crack the encryption and get inside. You draw on the locking system in data and it gives up and unseals the door. You're in. Old fabricator. There's a faded old Neovent printer in the bay. Feeding it data should authorize the component vending process. Neovent collapse. This colorful machine is corroded and collapsing. It only has a few prints left before it's just a pile of scrap. Air component. Okay, cool. Krieg. MG. Okay, but Wellspring. Seraphine. The shout echoes through the ship, reaching you in the cockpit. You see the angle of Seraphine's head change, but he does not respond otherwise. Did you hear that? Seraphine sighs. Yes, I heard. He looks back at you. How about you go see what they want? Okay. You unstrap from your seat and glide out of the cockpit. You run into Bliss in the corridor. Where's Seraphine? He's got to be the guilty one. They look impatiently over your shoulder. Bliss shakes their head. Come on, you need to see this. You follow the irritated Bliss through the ship down into the cramped storage units tucked between the main ship and the hull. As you enter, you're greeted by total chaos. Amber globs of liquid ration float in the air and cling to the walls, while chunks of dried food spin slowly, breaking into crumbs. See? Bliss fumes. Someone opened up one of the supply crates and left it like this. They pointed to a crate in the storage netting with the lid pushed open. Look at the mess spilling out from the crate. Who could have done this? Inspect the remains. You start trying to pick through the food and torn packets, but there's too much to take in. You pick up a chunk of ration bar and sniff it. Bliss gives you a sideways look. What are you doing? Bliss puffs out of their cheeks. I need a break from this ship. They look at you. Help me tidy this up. You spend the rest of the journey packing the crate away and disposing of the spoiled supplies. But as you do, you can't help but wonder what actually happened here. When you're finished, you take one last look around the storage bay. As you gaze around the now cleared space, you have the same feeling of being observed by unseen eyes as you felt in the tunnels of Holmes Rock. As he brings the ship into Wellspring's docking ring, you notice a rare tension in Seraphine's piloting. He jerks the stick a little too hard while the docking bridge extends, and a proximity alarm goes off. He curses under his breath. Relax, it'll be okay. I've docked this ship 100 times, Sleeper. He keeps his eyes on the monitors. I am relaxed. Stay silent. You decide to leave Seraphine be for now. As the ship stops, the docking bridge connected, you lean forward and look out of the cockpit windows, trying to get a good view of the icy surface of Wellspring below. The harsh gleaming ice gives way to the steep sides of the cut, the asteroid's one city. Weiß nicht, ob ich das vorgelesen habe. It glows and steams with warmth, and peering down into it, you cannot see the bottom. Beyond, along the horizon, you see the traces of the pithead, where the current extraction effort must be taking place. Seraphine runs the shutdown sequence and unclips from his seat. He turns back to you, a flinty look in his eye. I'm going to head down into the cut. I've got a few leads to follow up on. You get the sense he isn't asking for permission. Let me help? You can check out the city if you want, but I'm not following along, Sleeper. This is my trail to follow. Before you can respond, he pushes past and glides out of the cockpit. You turn and watch as he pushes past Bliss in the doorway. I missed something? Bliss shoots you a look. He seems even more irritable than usual. He's looking for his sister. Bliss raises an eyebrow. Family trouble? That'll explain the irritation levels. I would recommend they zip up their jacket. We go after him before he pushes past someone that pushes back. Let's leave him to it. Fine, but we're going to need a pilot if you ever want to leave this place. Let's hope he's feeling sensible. Looks like a stopover at Wellspring for a bit then. They sip the jacket. I'll be in the markets. At least Elaine's unlikely to come out here to pick a fight with the loaded syndicate. Bliss shrugs. They turn and head towards the airlock, whistling softly as they do. Eugene comes out of the side door as Bliss passes. He stretches and squints at you. Permission to find a bar down there? He grins. Just joking. I know I don't need to ask. He winks and follows Bliss. I'll wait with the ship. Ginny's voice echoes through the thin interior wall of the corridor. I've got archiving to catch up on. She pauses. There's nothing older than 1,000 cycles on that snowball anyway. whispering the base of the Lodic Syndicate. As you look out across its icy surface, you remember Malik, the captain whose ship you saved, and for whom you surveyed the ice asteroid. You also remember how he promised to repay you for your actions should you ever cross paths again. Perhaps Wellspring is a good place for you to make that happen. After all, if Seraphine's sister is here, surely the Lodic Syndicate would be the best place to find her. Keep it at Lodic Pass. In the cut, dirty, wet and thriving, the cut is a layered industrial city that is it is as intimidating as its inhabitants. Act like a local. The cut is filled with Lodic workers, which makes for a brash and bold atmosphere. You need to be the same if you want to explore. Heck, Lodic comps. Sure, you could wander, but the Lodic Syndicate runs this place. Surely you can learn everything you need to know by tuning into their chatter. Amazing to think this place supplies most of the belt's water. Bliss looks across the cut water at the workers in their distinctive yellow gear. No wonder the syndicate runs it like a corporation. You look at those gathered in the low-ceilinged bar, gathered around cushioned couches and low magnetic tables, their voices bouncing off the metal walls. All of them wear Lodic clothing, a mark of their status as contractors for the Belt's most powerful syndicate. At the far side of the bar you spot Yu-Chen, perched at a magnetic table with a bunch of miners. He appears to be playing some kind of local dice game, although given the amount of alcohol involved it's hard to tell if gambling or drinking is the focus. Look back to Bliss, who is watching another group, quietly discussing something serious in the opposite corner. I don't like it one bit. Bliss turns back to the bar and sips their drink through its metal straw. The contractors seem happy right now. They glance at you, though people usually are when their shifts are done for the day. I've been looking around Chasm Row, searching out components in the markets. Down there, people don't seem so happy. Bliss meets your eye. There's a lot of talk of contracts. It seems Lodic's been locking down its workers, giving the war in the inner system as an excuse. They play with their metal straw, swirling the orbs of liquid in their sealed glass. Pressure's building, sleeper. You shouldn't hang around here much longer. Sigh. We need to give Seraphine time. Well, Bliss raises an eyebrow. It sounds like I'm not the only outsider who's been hanging out in Chasm Row. I heard someone complaining about a rude young man asking too many questions. Bliss smiles. Who else could that be? Lemmoth. That's a place to start if you want to find our boy. They said he was asking about the rhyme market, but I have no idea what that is. Bliss looks out across the bar. Definitely a touchy subject for locals, though. I'm not in a rush. Me neither. Bliss swirls their straw. The drinks here are pretty good. But something's coming. Trust me on that. You leave the cutwater, shouldering your way through a crowd of boisterous contractors. There's a conspiratorial mood to the conversations now that Bliss has mentioned it, and you wonder what all the talk is about. You hear a bellowing laugh from Eugene as you slip out of the door. Better leave him to it. You feel a sudden cold as you leave the steaming bar and enter one of the icy passages cut into the asteroid itself. All this water in the hands of a single syndicate, if something goes wrong here, the belt will die of thirst long before the war reaches it. You turn up the collar of your jacket against the cold and head for Chasm Room. Find the rye market. Blizzard Seraphim was hunting for the rye market. Whatever it is, you'll need to get to know the area and its hidden ways to find it. A hidden rhyme. Seraphim was apparently asking about the rye market, whatever that is. Find it and you'll find your pilot. Okay, ja. Gut. Okay, dann geht's da dann nächstes Mal weiter.